Hi, this is Roman, and today we're going to go over a few strategies in Desmos on teaching our 5-day modeling lesson for week 34. Our focus question for this lesson is how can mathematical modeling be used to design containers? And our unit is on solid geometry. So I'm going to start on slide 11 here. And slide 11 has our introduction here on a juice company that wants a new container or bottle design and being commissioned to create it so it looks different from most containers, so it'll stand out to customers. And you're told that it could be a prism, a cone, a pyramid, or a combination of more than one type of shape, or any three-dimensional geometric figure that you could describe. We're also told it needs to be 16 fluid ounces. So the first thing that I'd like to show is, I'll actually shift down to slide 12 that has a few thought questions here. If I take a screenshot of slide 12 here with the 3 questions that are asked, I can go into my Desmos activity and click Sketch. And if I click Custom Image, I'm going to be able to upload my screenshot. Now, as that loads, if I click Preview, I can allow students to write their answer just using that text button. So they could explain themselves and their work using the text button, and then they could also click the math notation button, and if they wanted to do something like write a fraction or express pi, they could do that in the proper format, and also exponents for that matter. So this is one way to gather student thinking on this type of task. One more way could be to create questions one by one. So the way we would do that is we would include a note, and I'm going to go back to my 5-day lesson, and I will ask my question, and what I'm going to add is text input. So now if I preview this, here's how students see it. They see that first question. Now, if I wanted to, I could add another question. So I'm going to add another note, and I'm going to format this. I could just drag this to the right here. So now if I want to push to a second question, I could add a second question. And I see the formatting is a little off, so I'm going to fix that. And now I'm going to click text input again, and now I see that I'm able to ask 2 questions on one screen, and I'll be able to differentiate what questions students are answering. And I can do the same thing for that third question. Now, since we are on a digital platform, it might make sense to do one question at a time. That way, as you're gathering things, it'll be very clear to you as an instructor if you choose to utilize Desmos as a platform. One more thing that I'd like to mention here is that if you want students to really work on the given image, you can also add another sketch slide here, and as I preview, you're giving students a blank canvas to work with on top of the image that you uploaded for them to mark up. So I found that this lesson has a lot of extensions that could be used, and I did want to share a few. One I felt that could be useful is unit conversion, and here I have alcohol as my samples. So one thing that we could do is talk about adult beverages being used for these different types of containers that were mentioned. And then we could take it to a statistical idea and use one of the many formulas that have been derived to find the blood alcohol level and reinforce safety as a precaution to all students as they are maturing, and also as they're finishing geometry, that statistics will be coming in Algebra 2 and in their future studies. So here's one idea that it can take. Another idea that I found was in the wording here. We mentioned a combination of more than one type of shape. And the volume of a cup is one of the most interesting topics I found to teach students. So here I have a cone, and we see that that cone is eliminated to create a cup. And I know that this topic Has a lot of investigation, a lot of foundational skills with similar triangles. And I believe there's a few Regents questions, one off the top of my head that comes about the volume of a cup that have been asked in prior years. And that can be used as a foundation to teach the topic of the volume of a cup. Having said that, this can and might take up a possible whole day of the 5 days teaching the volume of a cup, and I feel that it would be very worthwhile. And one more idea is just the volume of all shapes, and measuring how much you could fill, right? So again, in a sphere here, I imagine putting a bottle cap on top of the sphere as the drink, and obviously we would have to have some different settings in the fridge aisle to hold sphere bottles, but we have seen stranger things. And, really measuring how much that we could fill in certain shapes, and then what would it look like if it did have that 16 fluid ounces that was suggested in the beginning of the question. Because if we want 16 fluid ounces, what would it be like to hold a sphere or a ball with 16 fluid ounces versus a cylinder? And how can we manipulate shapes like a cylinder? Because we can make a cylinder with a thicker base versus a cylinder with a very thin, a smaller base and a thin lateral area where we could really be comfortable to hold that cylinder. Or even versus the cone. And if we do the cone, how would you drink it, or where would that bottle cap be? So on top of the volume, another place that you might want to take it, and again, this depends where you are in the unit and where your students take it, is surface area. If you get past that 16 fluid ounces, to discuss designs, because you have been created to create this drink. So how can we use that surface area to market what we've created here? And how does the amount of surface area affect what we can and can't do to market it? And these are a few ideas of how to possibly use Desmos in this lesson, and also a few extensions that students may or may not bring up and might be worth investigating.